If at first you don't succeed, try again. That appears to be the motto for Trump's legal teams as they continue their desperate attempts to try just about anything at this point to get the numerous cases against their client thrown out, including citing presidential immunity, the charges being too vague, the legality of the special counsel statute, selective and vindictive prosecution. And as we saw this morning in Georgia, their attempts to throw out the whole Fulton County case on the grounds of the First Amendment.
I don't think there's any question that statements, comments, speech, expressive conduct that deals with campaigning or elections has always been found to be at the zenith of protected speech. The only reason it becomes unprotected, in the state's opinion, is because they call it false.
Well, they were false, but that is not the only reason why it's not protected by the First Amendment. Here is the prosecution's response.
It's not just that they were false. It's not that the defendant has been hauled into a courtroom because the prosecution doesn't like what he said. These statements are part of criminal conduct that is larger than just the false statement on its own.
Mind you, the same First Amendment challenges were made by two of Trump's former co-defendants in that case, and they were unsuccessful. And Trump's lawyers tried the same argument in the federal January 6th case, which also failed. Once again, this brings us back to what has been Trump's real goal, which is to delay the start of any of the trials until after the November election. Rinse, repeat. However, the New York hush money trial is presently the only one that he has failed to delay any further, with the judge saying it will start on tax day, April 15th. And as a result of having the audacity to not let Trump play his delay games anymore, Judge Juan Marchand is facing Trump's revolting wrath. Trump is also continuing to target the judge's daughter once again, including just in the last few hours in a post that names her. And while neither the judge nor his family are covered under the judge's recently imposed gag order on the trial, we could see that coverage expanded. Joining me now is Andrew Weissmann, former FBI general counsel, former senior member of the Mueller probe, and MSNBC legal analyst. Andrew, I cease to be able to be surprised, except that Donald Trump is now literally making up a story about Judge Marchand's daughter, posting about it, railing about it, naming her by name, and there's still nothing anyone can do to stop it?
Well, it actually is something that could be stopped. I mean, there could be the gag order could apply to both the judge and the judge's family. And this is one where, as a matter of grace, the judges have not imposed the gag order as to themselves.
Right.
It reminds me when Amy Berman Jackson, Roger Stone, had posted a picture with crosshairs next to her, and she said you couldn't find another photo that didn't have that there. And judges, I think, bend over backwards. But it'll be interesting to see whether Judge Marchand does expands it. But I just would like to step back to, it is true that you see this and you think it's just Donald Trump. It's just Donald Trump, more of the same. It is really important not to just get to normalize this.
Yes,
and
amen.
not to, I mean, so many people talk about sort of predicting what would a Trump 2.0 administration be, and should we really think he's going to be a dictator, and what will happen? And my response to that is, you can look right now at what he's doing and saying. And for people who are fair-minded, I would say, what do you say about somebody who attacks the daughter of a judge?
That's right.
Is there no depth to which you will not, descend? I mean, it is so important to not get inured to what this is.
Yeah. And I mean, the bottom line is the reason that he's attacking Judge Marchand and his family is the same reason he attacks Jack Smith. They won't stop prosecuting him. And he can't delay the trial anymore. He's found a way to even delay the Georgia trial, which is, I never thought they'd figure out a way, but they literally went after Fani Willis's relationship that had nothing to do with the case. That did delay it. This is the one case he can't stop. He knows it's coming, and therefore he's trying to personally destroy this man's family.
And just remember what we're talking about. He will be given his day in court.
Yes.
This is not, he's not being nailed against a cross.
Although he does claim he's Jesus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is doing the whole, I am God, I am suffering for you.
Yeah.
He is being given what every defendant is given, and as you said, more so.
Much more.
And he is getting, for this sense that the state has its day in court, simultaneously, he has his day in court.
That's right.
He will be able to defend himself. He has excellent counsel. He will be able to cross-examine, put on witnesses.
He could be acquitted.
Exactly. And so this is really somebody who's saying, you know what? I am not acting the way somebody who is innocent who wants to clear his name.
Bingo.
He is saying, I'd rather have nobody find out what the facts are because I'd rather engage in spin. He is getting due process in our court system, and he's basically saying, I'm running against all that.
The reality is that it is not just the defendant who has a right to a speedy trial. The American people, we are the plaintiff who also has a right to a speedy trial. And what he's saying is, you can't try me at all.
Absolutely.
And that's dictator talk.
Absolutely. And by the way, you know who has said that it is the public who has a right to a speedy trial? In the latest, the most recent Supreme Court case on that was decided and written.
Don't tell me Scalia.
Almost. Justice Alito.
Oh, come on.
And so the point is, all of us, everyone who is watching this, has a right to this public trial. The trial that is finally going to happen on April 15th, where everybody gets their day in court. Just to be clear, the state and the defendant is something that we are all entitled to.
And what Donald Trump's fundamental argument is, and they're using all these tactics, they're getting more and more creative. It's the First Amendment. It doesn't almost matter what the individual arguments are at this point. It's just to throw an appeal in or throw some other way to get more adjudication. And then the system, the grinding system, gives them the other opportunity to do it. But the bottom line is that he does not feel that any judge, state or federal, has the right to put him on trial for anything.
Right. Well, that is autocracy versus the rule of law.
It's a dictator.
And I mean, that is what is on the ballot. I mean,
Absolutely.
that extreme. The reason you have Liz Cheney saying, you know, I can get over policy differences because this is about democracy and what it means to have a rule of law country. And not. And
the reality is folks like me who I fundamentally disagree with everything Liz Cheney believes in. I'm on Team Cheney at this point. Absolutely. Because she and I agree on something fundamental, that this is a democracy where every person, if you commit a crime, you have the right to your day in court. And then if you are innocent, you have the right to be acquitted. Donald Trump has not gotten to the point where he can accept that he even must stand before the court. And the personal attacks on this judge's daughter, who has nothing to do, she's not putting him on trial. Right. At this point, let's just say they added him to the gag order. We go back to the same question. I've asked you this 400 times. Could they put him in jail? And they won't, right?
The answer is you could, and they won't. But just to bring it back to your first segment, you know, there's a reason that you are not seeing George Bush campaigning for Donald Trump. I mean, it goes to this idea of what is fundamentally at stake, that it is not normal. You do not have traditional Republicans viewing this as normal. The reason you have you know, I'm sure both of us were not sitting there going, Liz Cheney is who we believe in terms of a policy.
Not at all.
But her father, the president that her father was a vice president for, all actually operate within a construct that we agree on, because that's what it means to be American.
That's
and we can have lots and lots of differences within that system. And that's fine. That's what we signed up for.
That's right.
We did not sign up for this.
We sure didn't. Andrew Weissmann, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Let's just hope we make it through January 1st in one piece as a country.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.